Hi, welcome to Rhino Recap. The movie begins with Elisa Esposito, a mute woman who lives alone above a cinema. She prepares herself and pays a visit to her neighbor, Giles, before going to work. Afterwards, Elisa walks along the street and takes a bus to Occam Aerospace Research Center. She works as a janitor there with her best friend, Zelda Fuller. Despite being mute, Elisa still can understand and communicate with people. Even Zelda likes to talk to her. During their midnight shift, Mr. Fleming, head of security, gathers all the staff and introduces the new researcher, Dr. Robert Hofstadler, to them. Suddenly, a vessel which contains a very valuable asset is brought to the facility and Colonel Richard Strickland is assigned to supervise the study of the asset. Elisa goes near the vessel and suddenly a creature bumps against the glass. In the morning, Giles takes Elisa to his favorite pie shop where Giles seems to have a crush with the waiter. He always tries to bring up a topic to keep the conversation going. They return home and Elisa does not like the pie. Giles apparently doesn't eat the pie too and stores all of them in the fridge. While the janitors are cleaning the bathroom, Colonel Richard comes in and puts his taser on a wash bin before urinating. After he leaves, Elisa spots a blood stain on the wash basin. Not long after, Elisa and Zelda hear a scream coming from a room and Richard suddenly comes out with his fingers missing from his left hand. The ladies are ordered to clean the mess in the laboratory where Elisa accidentally finds Richard's missing fingers coming out under the shelf. When Zelda is away, Elisa approaches an aquarium and the asset, which turns out to be a fish-like humanoid creature, emerges from inside. She then gives the body parts to Fleming. Meanwhile, Giles works as a designer for an advertising company and they want him to make a new poster for a product. The next evening, Elisa goes to work as usual and sneaks into the laboratory to interact with the creature. She feeds it with boiled eggs and is fascinated by its beauty. As she leaves the room, she meets Zelda who tells her that Richard wants to see them both. Colonel Richard interrogates them, asking several questions about their background. Zelda reveals to him that Elisa was found by the river when she was a baby and has been mute since childhood. Before he dismisses them, Richard warns them to keep their mouths shut about the creature in the laboratory. The following day, Richard goes home and it is revealed that Richard and his family just moved to America for some reason. Elisa is very happy when she is assigned to clean up the laboratory where the creature is being kept. That day, she brings more eggs to feed the creature and even sneaks a music player. Elisa teaches the creature sign language and it seems like they understand each other. She frequently comes to the laboratory and dances in front of the creature. Unfortunately, this encounter is seen by Dr. Robert. The next day, Dr. Robert, who is actually a Russian spy named Dmitri, meets up with his boss. They head over to a restaurant to discuss the further action that needs to be done towards the asset. He reports his findings to the boss, informing him that the creature is intelligent and is able to communicate with humans. Back to Elisa, she sneaks into the laboratory as usual to meet the creature. She accidentally falls down and drops an egg. Soon after, she hears someone is coming and decides to hide. At the same time, Richard comes in and tortures the creature with his taser. He subsequently finds the egg that belongs to Elisa. That night, General Hoyt arrives at the facility and tells the room about America's rivalry with the Soviet in the space race. Colonel Richard suggests they harvest the creature's body to enhance their space traveling technology as it has a unique lung structure that allow the creature to breathe in both water and ground. Dr. Robert forbids them to kill the creature, but the general doesn't care and leaves. Elisa, who has been eavesdropping the entire conversations, becomes fearful for the creature's safety. She tells Giles that she wants to get it out of the facility, but he doesn't agree with the plan because it's just an experimental creature. Elisa insists as it's the first time somebody accepts her for what she is and doesn't see her deficiency as a problem. Giles leaves her and refuses to help her. He meets his boss and shows him the art, but the boss rejects the masterpiece, leaving Giles in disappointment. Giles then goes to the pie shop and at some point he tries to hold the waiter's hand. However, the man becomes angry and forbids him to come to the pie shop again. On the other hand, Dr. Robert rendezvous with his boss again who gives him a poison to kill the creature to prevent the Americans from advancing their scientific developments. The scientist seems to disagree with the plan, but he has to obey the order. Left with no one, Giles returns to Elisa and agrees to help her. In the evening, Elisa explores the facility to find a way out for the creature while Giles will be waiting for her outside. Back to Richard, he seems to have a crush on Elisa and often observes her from the surveillance camera. He deliberately spills the water and calls the janitor to his room. Richard then sexually harasses her, making Elisa terrified and leaves. Meanwhile, Dr. Robert prepares the syringe in the bathroom and Elisa begins the extraction plan. She turns the surveillance camera away from her escape route. At the same time, Dr. Robert changes his mind and protests to Colonel Richard that they should postpone the procedure to kill the creature. While doing so, he accidentally spots the camera being moved by someone. A few moments later, Elisa attempts to rescue the creature while Dr. Robert suddenly confronts her. Surprisingly, he decides to help her because he still wants to study the creature, and Elisa sneaks the asset in a laundry hamper. To buy her some time, Dr. Robert plants an explosive that kills all the electricity in the facility. At the loading dock, Zelda initially interrupts Elisa, but then decides to help her as they are running out of time. They get the asset inside the van and Giles drives them all away while wrecking Richard's brand new car in the process. Simultaneously, Colonel Richard becomes suspicious with the van in the loading dock and goes after them, but it is too late. They transport the creature to Giles's house and she puts it inside her bathtub, pouring several chemicals and salt to maintain the water's condition. She is planning on releasing the creature in a canal to prevent it being captured by Richard again. Meanwhile, Richard discovers an Israeli explosive, thinking that the asset was stolen by Russian. When she goes to the facility the following night, Richard once again questions Zelda and Elisa. After claiming that they saw nothing, Richard dismisses them. As she leaves, Elisa signs the F words to Richard, but Zelda translates it as thank you. When Giles is asleep, the creature steps out of the bathroom and eats one of his cats. Giles tries to stop him, but the creature is frightened by him and runs away while accidentally scratches his arm in the process. Elisa returns home and is shocked when she finds Giles bleeding. She searches for the asset, only to find it in the cinema beneath her apartments. Elisa brings it upstairs where the creature approaches Giles and touches his arm and head, magically curing his scratch wounds. Elisa and the creature become closer and closer. They even make love in the bathroom. Afterwards, she goes to work and tells Zelda about the experience of having fun with a non-human. On the other hand, Dr. Robert is visited by his boss who believes that the asset has been killed. He almost intends to kill him if things go wrong, but turns out that the boss still believes in his words. One day, Elisa deliberately floods the bathroom, creating a small pool so that they both can swim and have fun together. However, this action causes a leak into the cinema. Giles is informed about the water leaks by the furious cinema's owner, so he comes into Elisa's room and opens the bathroom's door. Subsequently, Giles is very happy when he discovers his hair is growing again and the wound is fully cured after being touched by the creature. At the facility, General Hoyt suddenly pays a visit and gives Colonel Richard 36 hours to find the missing asset. He threatens Richard that his career will be over as soon as he finds the creature. Elisa realizes that that day is the day she will release the creature, but she is already too attached to it. She even imagines a scenario where she dances with the creature and sings several love songs to it. Zelda comes over and sees that the creature is dying because they already lack the chemicals. Still that evening, Dr. Robert meets his boss to discuss his extrication from the facility. However, the boss figures out that it is still alive and shoots him. Richard, who has been following Dr. Robert, appears and shoots the Russian boss. He then grabs the scientist and tortures him until he spills out the asset's location. The colonel immediately heads over to Zelda's house, but finds nothing. Zelda doesn't reveal the location and Richard goes crazy, tearing off his 2 fingers that still haven't completely healed. Soon after, the husband, Brewster, tells Richard that Elisa took the creature. The colonel thanks him and goes after the mute girl. Zelda then calls Elisa to warn her. As Richard arrives, the asset has been brought away, but he finds a note on a calendar and learns that they are taking it to the canal. Elisa and Giles drive away to the canal where they say their last goodbye to the creature. The asset responds that Elisa and him belong together, but Elisa states that it must go without her. Afterwards, the colonel shows up and punches Giles just before shooting both Elisa and the creature. Giles then grabs a wood beam and hits Richard with it. Thanks to its self-healing ability, the creature revives itself and confronts the colonel, killing him instantly with its claws. As the police arrive, the creature takes Elisa underwater where it resurrects her by kissing her. It also turns the scars on her neck into gills, allowing her to breathe in the water. Since then, Elisa has found her true love and they both live happily after. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more such videos. See you next time.